thing in detail. So I want to know, when Allah in this parable is comparing himself, that's one of his attributes, light, to a glass, a niche, a star, a tree, an olive. What does an olive mean in this parable? Tell me. Because here's my contention to you. If, as you have said, and you have confirmed, that Allah is not like anything in his creation, then these words are meaningless. And you just said that he uses parables to communicate, so this communication is meaningless.
What is a parable?
A parable is a picture metaphor that communicates the truth. Jesus used them all the time.
So what's the problem here?
So, the problem is, I'll do a comparison. When we compare Jesus' parables, he used parables all the time about himself. The unjust judge, for instance, is a parable telling us that we should be persistent in prayer, like the widow that constantly barraged the unjust judge. Because even though he didn't care about right and wrong, because she would not stop wearing him out, he granted her request. So 1 second, you asked me a question, I'm answering it. So Christ is using a parable to communicate a truth. So I'm asking you, what truth about Allah's light is communicated by comparing it to an olive?
But that's not a parable. You didn't use a good example.
It does say it. It says it right. The parable of his light. That's what it says right there.
Parable is something when you use an imagery or symbolic imagery to explain greater truth in the statements. So, for example, when Allah SWT says, let me use parables. You know that we use parables all the time. You know, with rain and dogs and cats, right? That's a parable. So, a parable is not an unjust judge, but it's something we use an imagery or symbol, and then you combine it to convey something, because language has its limits, so you have to use parables to explain things that sometimes are very difficult to explain in plain language. Whenever Allah says He's the light, to me that's very, very obvious. Allah is here saying that He is guidance is with Him. You know, truth is with Him.
Hello, brother.
Because light denotes denotes clarity. Light denotes
humanity.
Safetiness. Because
Okay,
of darkness,
religion.
you don't know what
Religion is rubbish.
Light
No
denotes someone helping.
Brainwashing
There's
is
many
not right.
things that light denotes, like
Good
sustenance.
to be good human being.
So,
I am
here's the
brother in
problem.
my humanity.
You said that this is a bad example because it's not a parable.
Yeah, no.
1 second.
It's my brother.
It literally says
Doesn't
the
matter.
parable of his light
No, all
is as if
people are
there
my
were
brother.
a
We are
niche,
brothers
and
anyway.
within it a lamp,
In
a
humanity.
lamp enclosed in glass. The glass as it were a brilliant
I am
star,
confused.
lit from a blessed tree, an olive, neither of the east nor the west. So, let me finish. So it is a parable. No, that's exactly what we're talking about. 1 second. And the parable compares Allah's light to an olive.
Take it
There's
easy.
an olive. So I want to know what is
We
being
have no evidence, no
communicated
document,
by the
nothing.
word olive,
All this faith is
especially
made
in light of the
after
fact that Abu
200,
Bakr
300.
says
When this
anything
Bible,
that you
who
can
wrote
think
this
of as
Bible?
being
Who?
Allah is not Allah.
After the
So if I think of an olive,
Who wrote the
I
Bible?
can't think of an olive about
I
Allah.
ask you,
But yet Allah is using an
who wrote the
olive to
Bible?
describe himself.
Allah, who wrote the Bible?
Just to correct you, I didn't mean that wasn't a good parable.
Who had
I was
this
meaning the example you used as the
revelation?
unjust judge. That was a bad example.
No, it's a parable.
Anyway,
Brainwashing is
Literally says it's a parable.
I think you doing the same mistake you've done about 2 months ago when we had a conversation. And it was about the chin of Allah and all these things that you were bringing up. So basically, you're reading this text over there in front of you, and you're sort of being very literal about it by saying, well, Allah's referring himself as a light, Allah's referring himself as an olive tree. Is that being literal? Is Allah literally the olive tree? No, of course not. He's not saying that he's the olive tree, nor is he referring to any three-dimensional object.
Brother, I just want to say that the light means the guide.
I've already said this. Already said this.
So he's trying to say something which is
It's already recorded. I said it already. Just repeating. But what I'm trying to say is that again here, it's just using language to point at something greater in meaning.
Okay, so you haven't actually answered my question. Because I didn't ask about the light. I asked about the olive.
I don't know.
And
I don't know the motive.
And that's the point.
I don't know the symbolic significance.
Let me finish. I listened to you.
I'm not actually finished.
Okay. Well, you stopped. I thought you were finished.
No, you interrupted.
But he interrupted, actually.
But that was before that. But I'm trying to say the point I'm trying to make is, first of all, that's the reason I didn't want to talk about it. Because I don't know this verse well, so I can't talk about it. You've underlined it, done weeks of research, and you ambushed me. In a sense, I can't really.
That's fair.
Yeah, so I
Tell
can't
me what
really,
happened.
so I can't really pay justice to this conversation. But I can look into it and then
We should come back next week.
Yeah.
But my point to you is this, right? If these words don't mean anything that we can think of or imagine, then these words are meaningless. Which means that if they don't have a point of reference that actually communicates something, then that means that what we're reading is Allah is the blaw of the heavens and the earth, and the parable of his blaw is as it were a blaw, and within it a blaw, the blaw enclosed in blaw, the blaw as it were a brilliant blaw, lit from a blaw, and a blaw. Blaw in English it's just like a blanket word. It doesn't mean anything. It means exactly what you want it to mean.
I've never come.
Yeah. It just, if I say blah blah, it means you're not saying anything. Or if I say blah blah, it means you can fill those words in with whatever you want. So the point that I'm making to you is that within Islamic theology, there's a fundamental contradiction. It asserts one thing. Allah is not like anything that he created, whilst asserting another thing, that he has a light that is the parable of which is like a star, a lamp, a glass, an olive, a tree. And these things, you can't hold these two things in tension. These words have to mean something. Or, one second, or, so you either have to abandon the idea that these words can't mean what they reference, or you have to abandon the idea that this is clear guidance, because it's using these words. Now, you used an Ash'ari defense. This idea that the light is a metaphor for something else.
But is it,
one second. But I mean, as I understand it, you do evangelism with Ali Dawood. Ali Dawood is a Salafi, and he would assert that the light is a real thing, not a metaphor, not to be communicated as being something else, but simply something that we can't explain. So which are you, Ash'ari or Salafi?
I don't know. I'm not like neither. Yeah. But let me tell you something, right? But does this verse actually say that it's a parable itself?
It literally says the parable of his light.
Well, that's the answer though.
So what's the parable? What does olive mean? What does tree mean?
So first of all, it says the parable, right?
Yes, that's never been disputed.
So what is the parable?
At no point have I disputed that.
Lights, stars. For example, something very interesting. The Arabs used to associate loads of importance to the stars because they would use them to navigate through the deserts, and they would also superstitiously believe that the stars have an impact. Yep. So if we philosophize about that verse, it also means that the stars do not influence the world, but it's the light, God influences the world. And it's God who guides you through darkness. I think it's very interesting. So the lamp, darkness, stars. So when do we see the stars? When it's dark, right? Yep. And there's no sun, they're not deprived. So God is guidance when you're when you're surrounded by darkness. God, in His message, in His revelation, represents guidance, darkness. Could mean that as well. So I need to look at this verse, but kudos to you. You find quite interesting verses, I must say.
So let's advance the argument. My question is, in the Quran, sorry, in the Hadith, in Sahih al-Muslim, Al-Iman, Hadith number 261, narrated by Abu Dar, states this. I asked the messenger, did you see your Lord? He replied, how could I see him? He is veiled in light. So my question is the light that veiled Allah created or uncreated?
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I can't answer that question.
How? Let me ask you another question. Does this not suggest doesn't this suggest in any way that we play it that either one attribute of Allah can restrict another attribute of Allah, or that something that Allah creates can restrict His attribute?
I don't even understand what you're saying.
Maybe if I quote this one to you, Sunan Ibn Majah, Hadith number 195, the book of Sunnah, grade Sahih. Because I know you guys love Sahih. It states this: his veil. Everybody know what a veil is? His veil is light, and if he were to remove it, the glory of his face would burn everything of his creation as far as his gaze reaches. So what I mean by one attribute, or something restricting the other attributes, the face and the glory of Allah are his attributes. The gaze of Allah is his attribute. So the veil is restricting this glory. So, have we got here evidence of something either uncreated that belongs to Allah?
No, this hadith is not Sahih. It's a Hasan.
It is Sahih.
It's not Sahih.
It is Sahih.
Yeah.
That's that.
It's the
The
same
thing
one.
is, different scholars have different opinions
So
about
it's
which
not Sahih.
hadiths
He
to
lied.
believe.
It's not
No, I'm not
Sahih.
lying.
Even if
It's Sahih.
It's a typical missionary tactic. Something which is not Sahih is calling
Right, the way
Sahih.
you no, it
No,
is
but don't
Sahih.
lie.
The
Don't lie to
reality
people.
is,
Mr. Hassan, who told you it's Sahih?
because different
It's not
scholars
Sahih.
do different scholars.
Okay.
One second.
Which
Do
scholar says
different
Sahih?
scholars give different gradings
Ask
to
him which
different
scholar says
hadiths.
Sahih.
Yes, they do. Did you all hear that?
This is all they
Different
rely.
scholars
Christian missionary
give
rely
different
on lies.
grading to different hadiths.
They can't
So
make their point
he
until
believes
they
in
lie.
his scholar. He believes in his scholar.
Okay, I show you the
and the
scholar.
two
Show me the
scholars
scholar that says Sahih.
may
Okay, I show you the scholar.
about which. Bro, he already has said that they do
No,
that.
who says Sahih? Which scholar says Sahih?
Bro, he's already given the fact.
There's no scholar says Sahih. He's just making it
His
up.
grading of his scholar.
Making it up here.
One second.
Yeah,
One second. You can
anytime,
pull it up on the
bro,
internet, I'll
anytime.
give you the reference. So the
Okay,
reality
anything he's saying
is
is
that
you
we've
can
got a
refute it
hadith
easily, yeah.
that is
You don't
talking
understand.
about the attributes
Jesus says
of
he's
Allah
divine.
being
It's a
restricted by something.
Jesus is
I'll be
blind.
honest with you.
I mean, when Allah says He is light, that doesn't mean Allah is light from the camel.
I don't even think he I'm going to meddle with him.
Okay. It's very nice talking to you. Have I given you a book?
You have asked.
I would like to give you another book. It was a pleasant conversation
with Bob.
and I like to have a pleasant
Is that out of context?
My brother gave him a very easy answer. He says it's a parable. And when Allah says He is light, Allah's light means guidance. That you follow His light, you will be guided. That doesn't mean that light is Allah. That's exactly. Many places Allah says Allah will give the light in darkness for you to be guided. So He's just trying to make that light means Allah. No, it's His light, meaning His just guidance. That's what it is. He's making things complicated, and they are not.
So, and I saw comparing his attributes.
You look after yourself. That was a really pleasant conversation.
Allah is comparing His light. If we follow His light, we will be guided. And Allah is comparing His light with that particular light, which comes from that land. In that land, there's oil comes from a particular tree, which is the olive tree. It's talking about if you have that leaf, a bright glass leaf with that particular oil, and the light comes out of that in the darkness, how beautiful that light is. This is how Allah's light, which is guidance, is so beautiful that will guide you in your darkness. This is what it means. It's all talking about that oil. That oil comes from that particular tree. That particular tree is an olive tree. And in that niche, which is a beautiful glass, in that glass when you light, you see that light in the darkness, how beautiful that light is. This is how Allah's light, which guides people in the darkness. This is how beautiful Allah's guidance is. That's what it all means. It doesn't mean that Allah is that light. You get my point? You see, I'll read you another verse.
One second, because I'm actually going to go for a break. So, I've been talking all day, bro.
That's fine. He just invited me. That's all.
But
Next time maybe.
So yeah, maybe next time.
Yeah.
So the point that I made, what you should understand about our brother here, is that He's condemned by the other Muslims in the park as being a heretic
Really?
because he's a Mutasilite.
I'm not.
He believes in.
I'm not.
Do you believe that the Quran is created or is
I don't say Mutasalites are wrong in any way. I don't say Shias are wrong in any way. I don't say Sunnis are wrong in any way.
We've got Mansour, we've got the others challenging you on your
I'm a Muslim, and I take wherever I find the truth. Doesn't matter where you come from. So if a Mutasalite says something right, I agree with Mutasalite on that.
Do you believe this Quran was created?
I believe the word of Allah is uncreated, but there's a time and space when the Quran was recited. Because Quran means the recital. So whenever it was recited, that's the beginning. So I said Quran has a beginning.
these words are created.
Quran has a beginning.
So these words are created. These words are created.
You don't understand what I'm saying. There was a time and place when the Quran was recited, because the Quran means something to be recited. So that's why I say Quran has a beginning. That's what I say.
Is this created?
If something has a beginning, of course. Because when Allah spoke, I think you're changing the topic right now.
Well, because you jumped into a conversation, and I'm going on a break.
He just invited me.
Yeah, I'm getting stopped, bro. Because I've been talking since whatever time I arrived.
Anytime, no problem.
We'll talk again.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. So, in just the last conversation, I'm not trying to do them all. So we spoke about a surah in the Quran and hadiths that are sahih. And the surah in the Quran talks about Allah's light. And it gives a parable that compares an attribute of Allah to things that are created, such as a lamp, a star, a tree, an olive. But Muslims believe that nothing that you can think of about Allah is Allah. So therefore, these words can't mean what you imagine them to mean, which means that they don't mean anything at all. But the Quran says that it's clear guidance. We also read a hadith that says that Allah's attributes were restricted by something that He has either created or by another one of His attributes, the veil of Allah, the light of Allah, that restricts the glory of His face. Well, if Muslims have that belief that the glory of Allah can be restricted, then what objection can they have to Christians who believe that the divinity of Christ was restricted in Him taking on flesh?
Thank you.
Okay, we're done. You're going to get a cup of tea. You want to come and